The spoon slipped from my hand and hit the plate, a sharp metallic final. Every sound in the dining room stopped. My father's breath broke the silence. "Get out," he said, his voice almost kind. "You've disgraced us." The chandelier hummed above us, its light trembling on the untouched glass of water. I stood there, the air thick with perfume and shame. No one looked at me, not even her. I walked toward the door, my footsteps echoing on the marble. Behind me, the glass cracked softly, a thin line crawling across its surface. Years later, that crack would lead them straight back to me. When I was 12, my father, Thomas Bennett, told a reporter that talent skipped generations. He smiled as he said it, his arm around my younger sister Jenna, who had just won a school essay contest. I stood beside the camera lights, holding a watercolor ribbon I'd earned that same week. No one asked about it. At home, my mother, Valerie, moved through rooms like a curator, fixing frames, straightening flowers, reminding us that the Bennett name meant order. She said it the way people say prayers, measured and unquestioned. I learned early that love in our house came wrapped in quiet rules. Stay composed, stay useful, stay unseen. Our home in Maple Bridge was old, with tall windows and cold floors that carried every sound. When guests came for dinner, I set the table while Jenna played piano in the next room. My father always called her our prodigy. He called me reliable. It sounded like praise until I realized it meant forgettable. The year I turned 16, I entered a local art contest. I spent nights painting in the attic. Oil and turpentine clung to my skin. On the day of the exhibit, I searched the crowd for my parents. They didn't come. That night, when I returned with a small bronze medal, I found them dressed for a gala. "You understand," my mother said, adjusting her pearl earring. "The donors expect us." She didn't ask how I did. I placed the medal on the kitchen counter. It stayed there for months, collecting dust beside a bowl of lemons. Jenna had a way of glowing under attention. She didn't ask for it. It followed her. Teachers adored her. My parents orbited close behind. I became the person who remembered birthdays, checked the mail, covered for mistakes. When Jenna forgot to submit her college essay, I stayed up typing it for her. When she won the scholarship, she said, "We did it." I nodded. One winter, my father asked us each to paint something for the gallery foyer. Jenna painted lilies, precise and commercial, exactly what he liked. I painted sunlight breaking through stained glass. When I brought it down, he didn't look up from his papers. "Too personal," he said. My mother smiled faintly. "It's sweet." The next morning, my painting was gone. Weeks later, I found it in the storage room, stacked behind crates labeled seasonal decor. I didn't cry. I watched the dust settle over the frame. It glittered under the afternoon light, still trying to be seen. Absence in our family didn't start with shouting. It started with silence. Doors half closed, names left out, eyes sliding past me at the table. That day I learned my place. Then, one Wednesday, a thin cream envelope arrived at the community art center where I taught. It smelled faintly of roses and dust. It was addressed to Miss Sophia Bennett, in handwriting I hadn't seen in 6 years, my mother's. Inside was a wedding invitation. Jenna was getting married at Granville Hall. My name had been typed near the bottom, then crossed out in blue ink. A faint indentation of a pen remained, as if someone hesitated before erasing me completely. I held the card until the edge pressed into my skin. Around me, the classroom hummed. Children washing brushes, laughing, distant and unreal. Outside, late autumn light slid over the square where the Bennett House of Art still stood, letters gleaming on spotless glass. I remembered my father's voice the night he threw me out. "Get out, you've disgraced us." Even after all these years, it sometimes sounded as if he were standing right behind me. That evening, I tucked Noah, my 5-year-old, into bed. He stared up at me with the same clear blue eyes as Thomas and asked, "Do I have grandparents?" I hesitated. "Yes," I said, "but they live very far away." He nodded, satisfied with an answer that didn't explain anything. Later, I folded the invitation once, slid it into the drawer beside unpaid bills, and smiled. A small, hollow smile. It wasn't forgiveness. It was recognition. I had been erased before. This time I would make sure it was recorded. I rebuilt my days from small things. I woke before dawn. The apartment smelled of paint thinner and coffee grounds. I taught online art workshops, organized supplies for children's classes, and sorted through old records that still tied me to my family. Hospital invoices from Noah's birth, rental agreements, tax statements, a digital trail of endurance. I labeled it Foundations. It wasn't revenge. It was documentation. Each line became a quiet correction to the story they'd written about me. The community center became our anchor. Noah carried his sketchbook like a secret weapon. We walked past the Bennett Gallery every day. I used to look away. Now I made myself stare straight at it until the light changed. The owner of a local art cafe, Patrick Hale, hung my paintings on his wall and said, "You capture quiet." I didn't answer. I only nodded. Quiet had kept me alive. Weeks before the wedding, a plain envelope arrived in my handwriting, my father's. Inside was a check and one sentence. "If you're willing, I'd like to see you again." His signature trembled just slightly. The money meant nothing. The sentence meant that he had finally written my name. I folded the letter and slid it into my Foundations folder. I didn't plan a confrontation. I planned structure. Dates, receipts, photographs, hospital records, the proof a family might try to deny. Saturdays became rituals. Noah and I painted together, the children around us asking questions, making colors collide. He would say, "Yours are quieter than mine," and I would smile because quiet didn't feel like weakness anymore. The morning of Jenna's wedding, frost edged the windows. Noah tugged at his tie and complained it itched. "We're just visiting," I told him. Granville Hall gleamed like a glass jewel under a November sky. Inside, lilies and polished silver filled the air. Guests' laughter echoed through the atrium, polite and distant. I led Noah by the hand. His little shoes squeaked against marble. He was curious, eyes wide at chandeliers and string quartets. A child who had never been taught to look away. Then Jenna appeared, trembling in white, exactly as I remembered, delicate and adored. I almost didn't come. My voice was even when I said I almost didn't. She smiled, half relieved, half afraid. Across the room, Thomas and Valerie stood like statues in designer clothes. My father's posture hadn't changed. My mother's eyes catalogued everyone until they landed on me. The music swelled. For a second, nothing moved. Then my father's glass stopped halfway to his lips and shattered on the floor. Heads turned. The quartet's melody stumbled and stopped. Noah, startled, hid behind my leg. For once, they couldn't control the silence. Patrick Hale stepped forward, searching for me. Noah, instinctive, pulled his sketchbook from his backpack and set it on a nearby table. He began to draw, the pencil scratching paper like a steady heartbeat. Guest leaned in. The drawing was simple. 2 figures beneath bright window light. My father's jaw clenched. I watched him realize what everyone else did. The composition was mine. The same image he'd hidden in a storage room. "He has her hands," Patrick said quietly. "A Bennett, after all," the crowd murmured. My father's voice came low. "Sophia," heavy as confession. He took a step forward. "Please don't go." For the first time, his eyes were not made of stone. "You told me to leave," I said quiet. "I did," he admitted. His shoulders dropped, the performance gone. My mother's voice broke. "He looks so much like you." "He should," I said. "You tried to erase me, but he's proof you couldn't." Noah looked up, unaware of the storm he had calmed. "Can we go home now, Mom?" he asked. "Yes, sweetheart." We left while guests parted in silence. My father's hand lifted but did not touch me. His apology hovered in the air like a fragile thing. Outside, the cold night hit my face like a reset. Snow began to fall the following week, thin flakes that caught in streetlights and made the city softer. After the wedding, my phone buzzed with 2 messages from Jenna, careful and short. The last read, "They want to come see your class." I didn't answer right away. The mural on my studio wall, a burst of color over gray concrete, reminded me of what Noah and I had built. When Thomas and Valerie came to the children's art room, there were no cameras, no audience, only the hum of children and the smell of poster paint. Noah ran to them, proud as a small guide, and said, "Grandpa, look, I'm mixing blue and yellow." My father watched him paint. His eyes softened. My mother sat beside him and whispered, He's happy here. For a little while, they learned the rhythm of my world. Rinsing brushes, drying paper, clapping at a child's finished drawing. When class ended, Noah handed my father a drawing, a window shining with sunlight. My father took it carefully. "You kept your light," he said, voice low. I did not answer. I didn't need to. That night, the studio smelled of soap and drying paint. I stood by the window. Children's laughter drifted from the park. The mural glowed faintly against the wall. In it, the window shone brightest, painted by small, uncertain hands. I used to think survival meant shouting, pleading, proving. I thought healing demanded spectacle. What I found instead was quieter. Survival was the steady scrape of a brush against canvas. It was a child's laugh in a sunlit room. It was the file I made called Foundations, full of dates, receipts, and photographs. A map I could show if I needed to be seen. Forgiveness didn't rebuild my family. Truth did. And truth, sustained and precise, needs no audience. It simply stands unshaken. If you've ever had to rebuild yourself from silence, this is for you. Maybe you recognize the hollow places, the doors half closed, the names left out. Maybe you're still gathering your papers, your proofs, your small stubborn pieces. Keep making them. Keep showing up. Let quiet be your work. Let it be your claim. Where are you watching from tonight? If this story reached you, take a breath. Healing doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers, "You made it.